Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your hurricane outlook and discussion for Wednesday, September 25th, 2019. Let's take a look at what's happening out in the tropics. A few interesting things going on for sure. First of all, notice in the eastern Pacific we have a lot of convection here, thunderstorm activity and energy along the intertropical convergent zone and part of this kind of monsoon trough pattern. Very favorable upward motion stuck in this part of the world, part of the Madden-Julian oscillation. We'll take a look at that in more detail in just a little bit. Out west, you notice this trough and upper level low in the parts of Arizona, northwest Mexico, and on the other side of the coin, there's this ridge of high pressure generally built across the eastern United States, and that's going to build in even more. You also see an upper level low spinning here just north of the Bahamas and Cuba and Hispaniola. And Karen is buried in here somewhere, the remnants of Jerry right in here, and just all kinds of just kind of a mishmash of weather and different entities going on through here that are making things complicated for tropical cyclones to flourish. And that, of course, spells very good news for those of us who live along the land, own the land, who just rather not have to deal with tropical cyclones. When you see this kind of messy pattern like this, instead of anything becoming discrete by itself, robust and chugging along like Lorenzo is way out in the deep tropics, which I find a bit ironic that the strongest system right now is in the deep tropics, where a lot of people have said, well, the MDR, the main development region, is hostile and whatever, and most of our development is going to be up here in the subtropics. And that's been the case lately, sure, but isn't it interesting how that's bucking the trend now that we're not getting much development in the subtropics? It's very hostile, apparently, and the development is happening in the deep tropics there with Lorenzo. All right, so let's take a close-up look here at Karen, because I want to point out a couple things. First of all, that, my friends, is a very robust and well-defined outflow boundary. The air is spreading out and moving out from the thunderstorms, what little there were, from Karen's circulation, which is tucked in here somewhere. And that is divergent flow down at the surface. The air is flowing away from the center of circulation, which is like right there. And that's not how these things work. They work by pulling air in and air converging at the surface. We call that convergence. And that air comes together at the surface, rises in the thunderstorms around the bands and then around the core. And in the upper levels of the atmosphere, that air gets thrown out, generally speaking, in a clockwise fashion with anticyclonic flow over the top of it. So down below, it's counterclockwise with air flowing in, but at the top it's supposed to be clockwise. And in this case, it's just foobarred, as they say. And any youngsters out there that, hey, Mom, what does foobarred mean? It just means it's messed up, okay? That's all you need to know. It's not healthy for tropical cyclones to be in this kind of a pattern. It's very disorganized. And when you see, this is a telltale sign. Air moving away, never, ever, ever is that a good sign for tropical cyclone development. Never has been, never will be. So keep that in mind. And if we look at the vorticity signature, it's still fairly robust. There's a decent amount of spin down there, but it's really starting to lose the battle. And it's interesting as to why. They were even speculating about this in some of the forecast discussions from the National Hurricane Center, that it's kind of a mystery, and this will really fuel the flame of those who say, well, it's being controlled by man or something. That when it's unexplained, well, then it has to be controlled by man. That's how that works. If science can't explain it, well, then man must be doing it. So to which I say, well, one day show me the proof and where they're doing that. And if we all have time, I'll be glad to take you up on that offer, and you can show me where they are controlling the weather, because I think that would be an interesting documentary. Outside of that, yes, sometimes you just can't explain it. All things being seemingly favorable, there's obviously some dry air sitting in here causing that outflow and the thunderstorms to collapse, and it's just not going to develop, it looks like. And a lot of speculation on Twitter and elsewhere. Well, if Karen is here or if it's there in relation to this or that, it's just not looking good. Okay? And you hear me do these sports analogies a lot, okay? And I'm not a big sports fan, but, I follow it enough to understand that the analogies are applicable here. And here's the analogy. This is your favorite football team, whatever it is, college football, okay? And they're down 43-3 in the late third quarter. Probably not going to come back and win that game. It's not impossible. It's not a mathematical certainty, where you have 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, but it's not looking good. Karen is down 43-3. All she has is a field goal, and that's it. All right? So there you go. Meanwhile, Lorenzo out here is up about 21-0 at the end of the first half, okay? And it's going to go on to become a powerful hurricane, more than likely, and add to the accumulated cyclone energy, the ACE score. And while some people say, dude, whatever about the ACE score, I'm only interested in what hits land. Well, that's fair if you only track these because you want to see if something's going to impact land. I'm not going to dissuade you from thinking that way. We don't do that here. But I will say that the ACE score is important because it tells us a lot about the quality of the things that develop, the cyclones, and not just the quantity. So you can have a whole bunch of named storms that last a day or two that never get above 50, 60 miles per hour, and you look back at history and it says, wow, look, we had 15 named storms that year with 2 hurricanes or whatever. And you look at the ACE, and the ACE might be a score of 67 or 83 or something. That's pretty low for that amount of named storms. Lorenzo's going to pile on the ACE points. That with Dorian and some of the other systems we had that were shorter lived, and the plethora of storms. I mean, we are up to the L storm, and we're probably going to get to M, N, and O. That's my opinion. 3 more. We'll probably end up with an ACE of over 150 this year. Mark me down, 150 plus or minus 5 points. That's Mark's bet. All right? There you go. So looking at Karen from a scientific perspective, this is very important to me. I'm a big data guy. I love collecting data in tropical cyclones as well as other extreme weather events, whether it's video data, the data that we look at with our eyes and we watch it on screens and we go, ooh, and ah, that's amazing. Whatever it may be, from Michael last year and the Cat 5 conditions that we captured with the GoPro to the storm surge that we got this year from Dorian, also with a GoPro. Those are fascinating, certainly, and those can teach us a lot, those videos. But the data, the science, the math, that's important. And I am not just about powerhouse systems. That if it's not a hurricane, I don't care. That's no. We always care. And we got a good group of people supporting what we do here. I might be the front man, but boy, I tell you what, people like Brent, who created this infographic here, and he has the Kestrel down there, one of many that we have, thanks to our crowdfunding. This shows the pressure. And no, it's not spectacular, but it worked. And he put some effort into this. And you see it got down to about 1,008 millibars. Here's the different data, part of the infographic, these annotations that he has made. Even a nice little inset map right there. I tell you what, being a geographer, I love this. This is great. And a statistics guy, that's what I studied in college. Geography, map making, statistics, and meteorology. That was my focus. I'm not a degreed meteorologist, but like I said before, it's kind of like being an Episcopalian versus a Catholic. You're close, but no cigar. You don't go around pretending to be Catholic if you're Episcopalian. That's a big no-no. And I don't pretend to be a degreed meteorologist because, boy, the math and the science or the physics that they have to do, differential equations and calculus and whatever, that just wasn't for me. What was for me is putting in the long hours to collect data and really study the impacts. And Brent did a very good job here. Pause the video. In fact, I'll zoom in on this so that you can kind of take a look at this if you want to pause the video while you're watching and look at some of this data that we put in there. And this is important because we have several of these little instruments, these tiny little drop threes from Kestrel, and we can place these out. And you bet, when the next big hurricane makes landfall, whether it's in the month of October or November or next year, or even an intense winter storm that passes through some location, those can have low pressures. This kind of data is very helpful, and it was great to have practice. Well done, Brent, down there in the Virgin Islands. We also had cameras running from Brent's location. He and his brother worked hard on that. Timothy, one of our patrons over in St. Thomas, as well. A phenomenal collective effort, and it's all done through crowdfunding. For the money part, we got to pay for this, but also the collective resources of smart people who are engaged with the weather, and we do something about it. We learn from it. What an incredible thing. All right, so enough bragging about our, meteorological data collecting prowess. Let's get rid of that because I want to show just the standalone graphics. Taking a look ahead, what's going to happen? Well, a lot of speculation over the last few days about Karen. We see that here in the 850 millibar level of the atmosphere. That's the remnant of Jerry right there. There's Lorenzo. Nice big area of high pressure over the Atlantic. High pressure trying to build in. More high pressure will come down out of Canada and kind of solidify this. Trough out west. So forth and so on. That's the major players in this setup. So if we move ahead, this is this morning. So this is Thursday morning, Friday morning, Saturday morning. And you notice a couple things. Jerry just gets poofed. Karen hanging on by a thread. Cue up Bon Jovi and, Living on a Prayer or whatever. That's the theme song for Karen. And then, boy, look at Lorenzo there. It's definitely a good thing for land interests that we don't see this ridge connected all the way across like this with stout ridging all across the Atlantic, or Lorenzo would just be marching across heading for somewhere over here. It's not going to do that. And you can see the general weakness, and this changes over time, and you'll see that. It's going to move out to sea. I'm 90% certain of it. So this is 72 hours out. Like I said, Saturday morning here is Sunday morning, and then Monday morning. We're 5 days out, and Karen is just, nothing, really. Look over here, though, in the eastern Pacific, another potential impact for some of the resort areas of Pacific Mexico, so keep that in mind. I was telling you how the Madden-Julian oscillation is favoring this region, and that's not going to change anytime soon, at least for the next couple of weeks. All right, now looking at day 6 and then day 7 here, a couple of interesting things to note. We'll stop at day 7. This is generally the leftovers of Karen. Weak mid-level ridging, stout enough, but it's not real strong. Over the western Atlantic, too late for Lorenzo to take advantage of that. It's caught up in the westerlies up here. Might have to look at it from the perspective of impacts for Ireland and parts of Great Britain, the UK proper. Hard to say yet. This is still so far out in time. It might try to pinwheel up here towards the North Sea. But it is something to keep an eye on because it is a huge energy source in the atmosphere representing heat and energy and rainfall and storminess and all that stuff, meteorologically speaking. And so, you folks over here in the United Kingdom, keep an eye on it. All right, I'm not worried about a sharp turn towards the Iberian Peninsula. It's more of Ireland and Great Britain. We'll see. Okay, probably end up in the North Sea, but something to watch. At least it's several days away. But we got our eyes on it. Notice down here, though, this curious setup in the Western Caribbean Sea. The global models here, this is a week out. Okay, the global models are starting to indicate this sort of Central American gyre. You notice how these little wind barbs go in a general counterclockwise turning of the atmosphere down at the lower levels down there. And this is what happens this time of year. This is how Michael came to be. This is how Nate came to be in 17 and 18. Nate in 17, Michael last year. And that does not mean we're going to have another Nate or another Michael. No. That's not what I'm saying. But this is how you get these systems to develop. This anomalous westerly wind comes in, lower pressure through here, convergence of air, so forth and so on, south of this high pressure area. And it's something to watch. So another way to look at it, I wish I could put those eyes on there, those emoji things that you have, those two eyes. Try to draw them in here. That they always look over to the left. I would be watching this part of the Caribbean. That's what it comes down to. So let me change it to red. Put a box around this. This is where we need to watch, starting at about days 5, 6, 7, 8. So after about 5 days, I'd be watching this and not so much worried about Karen. You never know. It's mathematically possible that it comes back and it's stronger, but man, the global models just aren't seeing it. And usually when that happens, that kind of consensus that it's just not getting picked up by any of the major models, guidance and consensus leads the way. People call it the trend. The trend is your friend, okay? You want phrases? There you go. And the trend has been for a much weaker Karen, remnant, whatever. But it's still very much hurricane season. This is only October 2nd. And for those that say, well, hurricane season's over, climatologically speaking, it's hard to hit Texas from October storms and hurricanes, true, but it's not impossible. And in geologic time, which of course is thousands and hundreds of thousands to millions of years, we don't know. I mean, we only have reliable records going back to 1851 at best. So, Texas is looking better when you get to October. Everything else here, you just never know. I mean, Sandy, come on. That was at the end of October 2012, so don't let your guard down. We do have something to watch down here, and this is going to be the area over the next week plus. And if something does develop, and we look at the surface map here with the 500 millibar heights, just another way of looking at the atmosphere, another visualization, yeah, pressures are kind of low down here, 1,006 or so, if my eyes are correct. Pretty strong high pressure up here, 588 height line in the atmosphere means you go 5,880 meters roughly before you hit 500 millibars. That means that the atmosphere is thick there, the high pressure. The dome of air is thicker here than it is here. All right, does that make sense? This is like a mountain of air, and there's less air in the atmosphere, so to speak. It's like going downhill. This is the top of the mountain, and if you took a ball and it would roll downhill. That's not how it works exactly, but that's how you think about it. And then down here, lower pressure at the surface. So something to watch for sure. And you notice this ridging that develops out here in the 500 millibar level, probably shoot what's left over of Lorenzo up and into the North Sea, but you never know. That's what we do here. We watch and we wait and we act when it's needed. This is still got my attention. We're lucky so far that the Madden-Julian oscillation being as favorable as it has been, that we haven't had any major problems over land areas, But yesterday, you think about the rain that fell in San Juan. Our good friend down there, Carlos, sent me some video. There was impacts from Karen, and some people probably had some substantial flooding. So it's all about what happens to you. And so far, except for Dorian, North Carolina Outer Banks, Bahamas, etc., we've been okay this season compared to where it could be. I think we all realize that. But this is still stuck in phase 1. And you see it kind of dilly-dallying around. And who knows, it might try to mill around here throughout October. This goes out to October 9th. So knocking on the door of the 1-year anniversary of Hurricane Michael. And this favors the western Atlantic basin. All right, so we're not done. I just don't want people thinking, oh, time to throw in the towel, we're good. We're not good. People thought that last year. And in Mexico Beach, they're not going to be, quote, good for a generation. Just think about that. Port St. Joe, Mariana, Florida, elsewhere. All right, so it's still hurricane season. Just because we've been lucky, hopefully we'll continue to be, well, relatively speaking. It depends on where you are, of course. We know that. But you don't know when that luck could run out for where you live specifically. Okie dokes. All right, that is it. I am done for now. Kept it fairly short today. As always, I appreciate you tuning in. Real quick pitch for Patreon. We are still doing incredible things here. If you want to sign up, we got a lot happening even after hurricane season. It's not just a hurricane season subscription service. And I'm going to be doing a separate video just about what we're going to be doing with the future of our Patreon support going forward. I'm going to publish that on Friday. So if you want to wait till Friday to see that and then sign up, that's fine. But everybody that's been watching on YouTube, that's grown to over 21,000 subscribers in about 2 years. I've been on YouTube since '06, but I never did much with it. But from 2017 to now, I went from 1,500 subscribers to 21,000 with no marketing. I didn't put, promoted post, it's all organic. And that's you guys, and I appreciate that more than you will ever know. So thanks for watching. All right? Have a good rest of your Wednesday. It is Wednesday, right? Yes. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. I'll be back with more for you tomorrow.